Everyone to the Student Success Card networking call. We're talking through a couple of things today. We've already done our icebreaker and went through our agenda, but right now we're talking about the Summer Community Impact Report. We're going to go over some of the questions that are a part of that report. Then those questions will relate specifically to your Student Success Card program. If you're unfamiliar with the Summer Community Impact Report, it is due from your library by October 1st. And we want to have one person from every library fill out one report so that we have a full capture of the data from every library, every public library in the state. So I'm going to stop my share for one quick second while I reshare the URL that was listed in the PowerPoint presentation here, and it's been put in the chat. And you should be taken to this page right here. So this page is going to cover the student success portion of the Summer Community Impact Report, and we're going to go over some of these questions and answers. Before I get into the exact logistics of this question here, though, I have a brief little anecdote, a story that I want to share that I think is illuminating as to why we're covering this in such detail and why this is so important. So in 2007, I believe, the United Dairy Farmers of America issued a survey. And the survey had a bunch of questions about dairy farming and about the ways farm life and human life intersect with each other. But one of the more shocking bits of data that came out of the survey that made it far and wide into things like NPR and CNN was that 7% of Americans believed that chocolate milk comes from brown cows. Now, that seems like a ridiculous sort of data point, maybe a huge gap in a large portion of the population's education. But exactly, Jennifer. So in the chat, Jennifer just put, wait, it doesn't. Because the thing is that chocolate milk does come from brown cows. It comes from black and white cows. If you put in some strawberry quick, strawberry milk comes from brown cows. The thing is that how you understand what the question is actually asking can greatly influence your response. And we want to go over the questions in our student success survey so that we all have a similar understanding of what these questions are actually mean and what they're trying to get at. And even with carefully crafting these questions to be very precise about what we mean, it's still helpful to talk about and to hear and to have a chance to ask questions about what these questions are specifying about your library's efforts around a student success card. So I want to take this moment here and take a good 5 or 6 minutes to go through the few questions that we have on the Summer Community Impact Report that relate to the Student Success Card program, so that when the state library gets the data about your program, we have a good picture of what's going on so we can better design how we're going to support libraries throughout the state in trying to set up these cards. And so that we have a better picture of what needs there are out there in the field, and what examples we have of libraries doing student success card programs and what those parallels mean. So let's get into it. Let's talk about what questions we're asking and what they mean. The first one is question 44 in the Summer Community Impact Report. Does your library jurisdiction have an established student success card program that provides access to physical or digital public library resources for students by third grade? So the for students by third grade is important. If you only have a high school program, you're not going to answer yes here. We're specifically concerned with what's mandated in the legislation, and that's up to third grade. And the definition of a student success card program is outlined with language that comes directly from the legislation here. And it's a library card issued by a local public library through partnership with a local education agency that provides access to library services, including and some of the items listed there. So one of the key elements of there is that it's through partnership. It's not the same type of library card that anyone can come into your building and get. It is done through a partnership with your local school district. And we're going to break down those partnerships in future questions because there's both formal and informal partnerships that we're concerned with. But to start out, the Student Success Card offers access to the library's resources, and it's through partnership. And related to the legislation, it is for 3rd grade and under. So you've got a simple yes or no question there. If your answer is yes, what best defines the student success program model that you have? And it's a best definition of it. So choose the option there that is most accurate. And the two options presented are an opt-out model, where students opt out of getting a student success card. So unless they opt out, they automatically receive one. This is frequently done with a school district sharing the student data and library cards being created in an automated fashion, or an opt-in model in which students must actively choose to have the library card. So if you have an opt-in model, usually the cards are manually created by staff members, or the school may collate a Excel sheet that you can import into your ILS, but typically manually by staff members. And generally, you'll have fewer students receive a library card through an opt-in model, generally speaking. Both options are still student success cards. Both options are totally viable. They fill the mandate of the law because the law mandates that the opportunity is provided through a partnership with the school district. So do you have an opt-in or an opt-out? And then we want to know about the partnership itself. Is there a formal partnership? A formal partnership is defined as entailing a signed agreement. Usually there's some a set of precepts that both the school district and the library have agreed to, and they've written those down, and they've both signed and said, yes, we agree to these specific conditions for our student success card. That would be a formal partnership. We have a bunch of details about what your formal partnership may look like, including my formal partnership is in the process of being established, or no, I don't have a formal partnership, as well as an option for other. Please, whatever answer best describes the current state of your public library's student success card program, choose that option. Do you have an informal partnership with your school district? And informal partnership does not entail a signed agreement. It typically is going to be a verbal agreement, some sort of an informal way in which the school and the library have agreed to establish a student success card program, even if it's in a set of emails where you've agreed to something. Unless there are signatures involved, it's not going to be a formal partnership. So it's a yes or no question on this. And then which of the following best defines your informal partnership? This could include library visits. It could include school visits to the library, or we've got in the process of being established, or no, you don't have a formal partnership. And then another option, if something we haven't considered, is available here. And the opportunity to describe that in some detail. If you have a partnership with any charter schools, we're particularly interested. Usually charter schools are attached to a school district. Sometimes they are their own school districts though. So if your partnership is with a charter school, we'd be interested in that as well. And if you have a partnership with a county office of education, although we haven't come across that before, it is part of what the law allows for, it says is possible. My understanding is that county offices of education typically do not have a roster, they do not have enrollment. So that would be exceptionally rare from what I understand, but I would love to learn more if I'm incorrect. And then in which county is your library jurisdiction located? And then which school districts are you currently partnered with? And this is going to be a drop-down list of every school district in the state that is going to be filtered by the county that your library exists in. So these are the questions that are in the Summer Community Impact Report that we want filled out in relation to student success. And we want everyone to have a similar understanding of them, an identical understanding of them, so that when we gather this data, we can get the best, most clear picture of what student success card programs look like throughout the state. Before we go into the Ask Us Anything about your student success card program, I do want to take a moment and see if there are any questions specifically about the questions related to student success on the Summer Community Impact Report, or the SCIR, as we like to call it here in the State Library. Heather. And you can unmute or use the chat, Heather. If you're allowed to unmute, do I need to allow you to do that?
Okay, on number 49, I wasn't able to select that we both go out to the schools and they come to us. So I selected other and then put that in the other. Does that sound like the way to do that?
That is very helpful, Heather. Thank you. I was unaware that this isn't a radio box, rather a checkbox. So thank you for that. That's an excellent solution to that problem.
And thank you. And then while I was wondering about that, I missed what you said about the county office partnership. Does that need, I mean, we partner with them all the time, but did you say that it needs to be a signed agreement relating to the success cards?
So that would be the question for this survey. It's if you have a signed agreement, if you have a partnership related to student success cards with the County Office of Education. A partnership on other efforts related to library services is wonderful. Please continue to foster that partnership. However, it is not the contents of this particular report.
Okay, thank you very much.
Chris, we have a hand raised, but we had a question that appeared in the chat first, so I'm going to read that out loud. Does question 51 refer to only those charter schools that are not associated with the school district or county office of ed?
So thank you, Emily and Maria, for the question there. My response to that would be that if you have a partnership with a charter school that is a part of a school district for student success, my understanding is your partnership would typically be with the school district, not with the county, not with the charter school. If you've got a specific partnership with just the charter school, but not the school district it exists in, that's when you would list this here. Or if the charter school is its own school district, you would also list this here. Maria, does that answer your question?
Yes. Okay, next we have Donald Hilliard with his hand up. Donald, go ahead.
So I have a question on number 44. So for our student success program, we offer access to online resources and also use of public computers, but we don't allow the option to check out printed materials. So would we answer yes or no to 44, given that we don't offer all of the 3 bullet points listed at the top?
So my understanding is that that would be a yes, that you do offer all 3 of the bullet points because they can check out digital books, correct?
Oh, yes, correct.
Yeah. So it's not access to everything in your collection. It's access to collections that support school curriculum and leisure reading, as well as your online research. Yeah. Lots of programs only allow for the checkout of digital items with the Student Success Card program. That's totally viable and allowable.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Donald. In the chat, Trisha asks, our current SSC program is high school only. Should we answer yes to 44?
No, you should not. It is specifically for grades 3 and below. That is what the legislation is concerned with. Just related to that, though, I really think there's an enormous value in doing student success card programs with learners beyond 3rd grade. I think that it is excellent practice for libraries, and I would love for the toolkits and resources we are creating to help support that effort. In relation to trying to gather data for future legislative reporting, though, what we're looking at specifically is programs that target the 3rd grade and under audience. So, Trisha, I think that what you're doing is worthwhile and something that should be pursued, but it is not the purview of this particular program. I don't want to foo-foo doing it with high school. I think it is vital and important. 3rd and under. Did I say 3rd and up? I apologize if I did.
Okay, Nancy asks, Inyo has online charter schools that serve the county students. Are we needing to include those students?
My understanding would be that as long as this is done with the charter schools are a publicly funded school, then the answer would be yes.
Lisa asks, so the student success questions currently, it is only for partnerships with third grade and below?
Correct.
If our program is informal, do we select opt-in model for that question?
Most likely the answer is going to be yes. If you have an informal partnership with your school district and they are handing over massive student rosters to you, I would examine whether or not the school district and the library are acting in their own best interest in that instance. However, if it's happening, you could choose an opt-in. I think that would be rare, but you visit with a library application. Totally. A viable student success card program, as long as it's done in a systematic way with partnership with the school district, even if it's an informal partnership, that would be opt in enrollment program, and it would be an informal partnership. Yes.
Great. Okay. Juan Perez asks, we use Koha, Koha, for our library service, and Koha, and haven't figured out how to integrate the school data yet. When requesting data, is there legal information we have to declare when we request the information from the school?
So there are laws around student data privacy, and there's nationwide legislation called FERPA, which the spelling out of that acronym eludes me at the moment. But you will want to be compliant with all of those laws, as well as any local and state laws. But ultimately, the best way to do that is with either a memorandum of understanding or a student data privacy agreement that exists in relation to those things. And I see some of the team here put in links to that. Thank you for that very much. Regarding what's a good way to go about doing that, Juan, which I think is a more immediate question. Part of the toolkits we are creating do include sample memorandums of understanding that cover student data privacy, as well as specific site agreements that libraries and schools have engaged that cover student data privacy and the treatment of student data. So I think there are cautions that you do want to be wary of, things that you want to protect and procedures you want to have in place if there's a data breach, or things that you want to have in place to have the minimal viable amount of information to deliver the service that is in alignment with a lot of library principles. But regarding whether or not you have to sort of declare them, whether or not there's an onus on you to make sure that it's upfront, that's going to depend on local and state laws that I can't consult on one.
Okay, I don't have any questions in the chat right now that we haven't gone over or see any hand raised. Anybody else have questions? Okay, here we go. Will the state library be developing a model MOU that can be modified for local circumstances?
So I think that we are getting just slightly off topic on the summer community impact report. So Nancy, I'm going to save that question for the Ask Us Anything about student success, because that's exactly the type of question we should be answering in the next section of the agenda here. And then another one not related exactly to this. So
do we need to do we need to separate the student success card with a separate profile so that we can keep statistics? That's related. I'm a little confused though, but
yeah. So a best practice for this, definitely what we have heard is that libraries really benefit from having a specific prefix attached to the barcode numbers on student success card programs. And that is partially for the students' ease of use, but also so data can be pulled more quickly and more clearly about the numbers related to the program. This set of questions, though, is not asking about the efficacy of your program yet. We aren't there yet. Right now, we're trying to get a grasp on what programs there are in the state. I would say what you're describing there having a way to segregate your traditional library cards from your student success cards, specifically in reporting, is by far and away a best practice, even a necessary practice. But it is not part of what we're questioning here in the SCR.
And then this sounds like more of like ask us anything. Are we going to need, well, unless this is something that's going to ask for future questions in the report, but are we going to need to provide an MOU, or could we continue with an informal agreement?
My understanding of the legislation is that an informal agreement, as long as it is a partnership, is in alignment with the legislation. So I think that if an informal agreement is working for your school and your library community, then it is sufficient.
Jennifer answered that we're going to have a sample that there is a sample MOU on the Student Success Card website, and then we'll have more coming from our working group for resources.
That is correct. I've seen, we put one on the website right now from Oakland. Thank you, Oakland Public Library, for sharing with us. And we've seen quite a few others that we want to put up there in the coming weeks here.
Yeah, we're working on toolkits and stuff, so people will have more comprehensive resources. Anything else regarding the community impact report questions before we get on to ask us anything? And I suppose if someone thinks of a question for this later, that's fine too. But
Emily, I have a couple of things that people have not asked about the survey that could be relevant. So the first one, Chris, I don't think we stated this at the beginning, but when are we required to complete the survey? I think it's very soon.
Yeah, October 1st is when the survey is due.
Great.
So it's very timely. We're having this meeting now. Thank you, Jody.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Another question I have here that nobody asked yet was, if we serve multiple school districts, how do we answer question 44, if it's a yes or a no, or we have different kinds of agreements with different kinds of school districts?
Okay. So question 44, if your library has established at least one student success card program, would be a yes.
Okay. And if some of them are formal or informal, how would you like us to move forward with that?
I believe that you have the option to do both, actually. So even if you do have a formal partnership, you answer 46 and you answer 48. Yeah.
Is there any need for us to keep track of districts that have declined reporting?
That have declined a partnership?
Mm-hmm.
Not presently, because district leadership changes, and a no in September doesn't necessarily mean a no in January or March or later on. What we want to do through this program is help all the parties involved in student success card programs get to yes on some form of partnership for serving California students related to this.
Great. And that actually goes into my final question about the survey, which is, will this be part of our summer impact survey going forward?
Oh, no, this should be a one-off instance of this. Initially, there's logistics behind that, but the story's not important. It should be a one-off.
Okay, great. That's all I have so far about the actual survey.
Chris, I have a question from Molly regarding the survey. Are we able to save drafts of the survey as we enter data so we can come back to it?
Molly, I don't know the answer to that question.
You have to go through it and do it in order to find out, probably, huh?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I can perhaps I will send a Teams chat to my colleagues that constructed the survey tool here to find out. But hopefully I'll get an answer before the end of the session. Reed, are you still on? Do you know the answer to that? All right.
I'm gonna say that that Kylie, hopefully I pronounced your name right, and responded that they copied and pasted the whole survey into a Google Doc so my colleagues and I could work on it together. It worked well. Yeah, we did something similar at San Diego Public Library. Put things in so that everybody could just add to it. So copying and pasting, and then that way you have everything in a separate location that people can contribute, and then you can add in all the answers to the questions when you're doing the survey, and then you have it for future years to look at too. So Juan asked, will the toolkit include, so going to more ask me anything, is will the toolkit include any ways to work with the data? Oh, hold on. We are a small staff and inputting hundreds of students may be a bit difficult for us. And then Jennifer responded, sort of, we do have some documentation that might be helpful. Another thing we are working on is helping libraries identify other libraries that have successfully implemented programs so you can find a buddy who also uses Koha.
Yes. So in addition to the buddy system that we're seeking to develop that Jennifer alludes to, one of the toolkits that is forthcoming is data and reporting. That's something that the state library is going to build from the ground up, that's going to specifically relate to the data points that are relevant to the legislation. That's still forthcoming. The first formal report to the state legislature isn't due until 2029, I believe. So there's a bit of time between now and when we'll try and pull data points related to data that you can use in the service itself as you're thinking about communicating to stakeholders, as you're thinking about making sure that there's efficacy in the program, as you're thinking about the outreach that you engage in, or maybe looking for talking points with other school districts in your library jurisdiction if you've got one on the hook already. That type of data there is discussed in the toolkit, specifically in the describing program impact section. It's not as technical as what you may be after if you have a system like Koha, but the types of things that you will want to try and pull and the framing of the conversation around the data points is covered in detail in the toolkit. However, it's not, in Koha, go to this menu and pull up this screen and this filter and do this and that. It's not that type of technical. It's more overarching structure.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Any other questions? I think we can just say we're opening it up to Ask Me Anything now.
Let's get the Ask Me Anything going.
All right.
I'm gonna stop my screen share so it's a little easier to see here.
Yeah. Is there a possibility of the state library creating a talking points for reaching out to school districts? We have reached out in the past without luck.
Yes, there is. It's in both the toolkit drafts that we have reviewed, those exact types of talking points and artifacts, from follow-up email templates to introductory email templates, as well as a general calendar of how school districts typically function that talks about good times to engage in these conversations. I will say, there's no silver bullet for something like this. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. Additionally, one of the things that I would really like the state library to do, and one of the things that I think can bolster the program, is if we try and also have this conversation from the other side of the aisle and really speak directly to school districts from the state library about how valuable it is to partner with your public library on programs just like this. So we're trying to make the runway to student success card programs for your local library as easy as possible, both in the forms of templates and tools that you can use, but also in forms of direct communication to other stakeholders.
Yeah, and then on that note, Heather says, will the legislation require that private schools participate?
No, it does not.
That's not. Let's see. Kate says, speaking from a school district perspective, when dealing with student data, FERPA, it would be an excellent idea to have an MOU rather than just like an informal partnership.
Yes, that covers liability better for both the library and the school district. It is by far the best guidance and advice that we can give is to have an established MOU and maybe even a side agreement specifically dealing with student data privacy.
Yeah. We are a small single branch library at our local public elementary school falls under Pasadena Unified School District. Pasadena Public Library has already partnered with PUSD to provide access Sora for all PUSD students via their school Chromebooks. Does providing this access to Sora fit the criteria required for the student success card?
No, Sora alone is insufficient for a student success card. Um, the uh, the materials that need to be accessible include the online research materials that are available at the library, as well as online tutoring if it is offered, and digital content available through Compass. The California State Library's K-12 online resource project is what Compass was called when the legislation was written. Now, your school district should have access to Compass all on its own. Like, that is not something that they need to go through the library to offer. It's in the legislation, but it's something that they can get on their own technically. But online research as well as the ebook collection that is available through Sora would be part of what is required from the program.
David asks, what we ran into in the past when we first asked our local school district if they would be interested in this a number of years ago was that they required a very high cyber liability insurance for fear of student data breaches. What do you suggest in this case? Should we simply try again and hope some of the leadership has changed?
Ooh, that's a very tricky question, David, and one I sympathize with, because it is not just a no, it's like a no because there's a cost for the school district, which is an additional, much harder barrier to breach than a lot of other no's we may hear, where it's a lack of will. With this one in particular, I would point out that it is mandated by legislation that schools and public libraries do this together. And there are going to be allowances in the student data privacy agreements that you can engage in that are going to cover what to do in a data breach. I don't know how, I'm not a lawyer. I can't speak to how well that's going to shield the school district from any liability issues. But I will say that lots of other programs are able to do this without incurring an additional cost to their insurance.
I think you touched on this, but just to confirm, how will compliance with the legislation be confirmed at each library?
It's a really, really interesting question, Elizabeth. The legislation actually mandates that the access be provided to every pupil in California under third grade engaged with a local education agency. So the tricky thing is we're talking to public libraries about this. The actual smaller unit is the school district. There are more school districts in California than there are public libraries. So what we really have to work through and what we want to confirm compliance of is actually every school district in the state. Because even if every library said, yes, we do have a student success card program, that doesn't mean that every school district is served by a library's student success card program. So the smaller unit is the school district, and that's how we're going to confirm compliance with the law of this is by going through every school district there is in California. And that is specifically why we have question 54 in the Summer Community Impact Report here, which deals with the school districts.
Are there plans for the state library to provide funding to libraries to help support this?
If the state legislature would make funding available for this, we would gladly provide it.
I feel there's the next couple are just are providing more clarification to previous questions. With the question of overlapping jurisdictions, can city and county libraries work with the same school districts? Is it proprietary to have one district, one library?
So, Shannon, what we do is actually we put them in a fighting rink where you choose your champions, and it is 2 enter, 1 leave. No, if a school is double served by a library jurisdiction, that is all the more benefit for the students, right? It is more resources that they have access to. Schools may be reticent to do that because it is perhaps diminishing returns on the staff time and investment. And there is staff time from the school side that this takes as well. It is really valuable to be cognizant of that. But one thing I will say is that libraries that share ILSs, integrated library systems, and share barcode patterns, you do want to be aware of what sharing agreements you have already so that a student doesn't have 2 student success cards in the same library catalog with access to everything and maybe a competing library card number, because frequently the student success card numbers are built on the student ID number of the student. So if you tried to import 2 students with the same student ID from Woodland Joint Unified School District, where I am here in California, you could run into an issue, especially if you're using the same prefix at the top. So as long as there's not a complication that's going to strain the technology, serving a school through 2 libraries is totally fine, but it does not need to be served through two libraries.
Thank you. Molly just is adding that the form does not save drafts, so the whole report has to be completed. Lisa asks, I see that the impact report says January 1st, 2026. The state library shall ensure that partnerships between public libraries and schools have been established to provide student success cards to all students by 3rd grade. Does this mean we need to have a successful formal partnership by that point? Or if we are in the process of an informal one, by then it is okay?
That's a very tricky question, Lisa. The answer is that we're taking this survey to get a good understanding of what student success card programs look like across the state at this moment. We are keenly aware that reaching that all students by 3rd grade metric by 2026, January 1st, is a likely impossibility.
As mentioned before, we are in an informal partnership with our local school district and have been providing opt-in library cards. We are a small city library, and this is done by our library going straight to the schools with applications. We receive the application and process all cards for those opted in. Would this be considered in compliance?
So the answer, the crux of this question is it done through a formal or informal partnership? So is it done in a systematic way where every student under 3rd grade and under, have the chance to get that library card? Usually that's going to involve a systematic process that I would describe as a partnership. So that's going to be the fulcrum on which the answer to this question weighs.
Okay, and then Molly asks, who will be held responsible ultimately for whether students have student success cards, the school districts or the libraries?
Molly, that's a very pointed question. I think it largely depends on what you understand responsible to mean. I would say that the state library is really charged with the effort here. So we're the one that's going to report on the success of this to the legislature, and we're the one that's going to be collecting all the data. You're welcome to read the legislation itself. It's already linked in the Summer Community Impact Report page, and you can see just what consequences are available if student success cards are not fulfilled.
Okay, is the requirement by 3rd grade, or does the card need to be offered to younger grades as well?
Nancy, that's a really good question. I think as long as it's offered to all the students by third grade. So if all of second grade gets a student success card, but first and third don't, to me, that meets the requirement. However, I think best practice is like hit all the grades, right? Right? You want you get as many. We all want every kid in our community to have a library card. So if you have the if for some reason you can't do all the grades, do one of the grades by third grade. But if you can, I say do it. I think it's a useful tool for enriching student achievement.
Yeah, and I'll just add that I know everyone has different circumstances and different challenges and capacities, but once you build the program and you have a good structure and you have it's to open it up to all students or to all grades, at least in elementary school. I mean, we found on our end isn't that much more of a lift, but again, everybody is in there has their own circumstances. So it feels like tracking how many districts decline to participate would be a good idea.
I do think you locally want to know what districts are not engaging in this process. However, we aren't asking for that information as of now.
Staff time is necessary at all levels and difficult to commit without additional funding for us with smaller staff. How can the state hold libraries responsible to do this? Just in our county, there are over 40 school districts. Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah, Darla, you are describing something we have heard consistently. My response to that is that we are trying to make it easy at the state library. We're trying to make it as easy as possible to establish these cards. This is what the legislation mandates.
Jennifer adds, if a district declines, you should try again every year. Leadership changes. Yeah, unfunded mandates are difficult.
Agreed.
Everything else going on, for sure. Any other questions? I think I got through everything so far in the chat. If I missed you, oh, here we go. Jenny asks, to clarify my understanding, does a student success card follow a student throughout their time in the district? After they are through a school district, is it deleted? Is this taken care of with a yearly update from the roster?
Jeannie, that is an excellent question. I will say the most common practice we have seen is that student success cards are retired at the end of every school year and reissued at the start of every new school year. That's not the only way to do this. And some of the more informal full library card application programs that people have referenced in the chat here already are an example where that's unlikely to be the case. However, when it comes down to what the program requires, it's totally a local decision on how you retire cards and frankly how often you update your rosters. There's libraries that do it every month, there's libraries that do it every quarter, there's libraries that do it at the start of the school year and then never again. So that is a-okay, whichever mechanism for updating and retiring student success cards you want to use locally, it's sufficient.
Yeah, I'll add that at San Diego Public Library, once the student gets our student success card, they can have it until they turn 21. So regardless of whether or not they leave the district or not, like we don't have them expire until they turn 21 because we have adult, programs at our school district. So it's kind of like working with your district, and it's a case by case basis on what your program will do. So my understanding is that, okay, wait, no, and Angelica, data tracking, we are finding sorry, I'm scrolling now. We are finding the hardest thing is getting our ILS to work with the school's databases. By database, like working with their e-resources?
Or like their school-wide student tracking system.
Their student data, their student, like,
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Go
To
ahead.
make the physical cards, we wanted originally to be able to make physical cards for every student with their student ID number, but so we've tried to do a pilot program with one of our local schools, a high school, to see how it would work. But getting our ILS to work with, so getting our IT department to work with the school district's IT department so that we can access their data to create the cards, that is what we were having the most difficulty with. And so that's why we've settled on e-cards instead at this point.
Okay. And then you're asking that student success cards can also be e-cards. Is that correct? And that is yes.
Yes.
Right, Chris? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And Molly, you're in Ventura, right?
Yes, that's correct. Ventura County Library.
Molly, is it more that the systems aren't working together, or the people are not working together?
I think it's a little of both.
Okay.
Definitely part of it is the system, but part of it is is privacy concerns.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I've heard from a lot of libraries is the most effective way to do that is literally export the relevant fields from the student management system into a CSV or an Excel file, and then have that encrypted and do a file transfer protocol, or literally moving a encrypted flash drive from the district office to the public library where there's access to your ILS, and doing a batch upload of those student cards as library card creation there.
Yeah, I think that's what we'd like to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's what our IT department, I think, has suggested that.
Yeah. Sacramento Public Library works with several school districts, and they have really refined that process quite well. And they use FTP, they use file transfer protocol to maintain the encryption and access.
Is there documentation of that process somewhere, or that
Molly,
could be with us as part of our toolkit?
Send me an email and I'll see if I can get it to you right away. But yeah.
Okay, we have a couple more. Let's see what we can get through here. Data tracking of digital resources, resource use will be difficult. Example, increase in online tutoring, increase in e-resources. Need vendors to change stat collection models to be able to track. Not sure of ideas on tracking those stats.
Yeah, we are not asking for the use stats on student success cards yet. We are working on a couple of toolkits that revolve around describing program impact, and essentially how are these cards not only being offered to the students, but how are they using the cards in meaningful ways. So right now, it's not the most immediate concern for legislative reporting, but it will be down the horizon. And we hope to have more formalized guidance around there in the coming year here.
Okay. I see some more comments, people responding, giving more information to questions. Let's see. We have met with the district and are allowed to provide all schools with our applications and provide cards to all who opt in. Glad this could be in compliance. My other question is, will there be statistics that you or they will require?
The legislation does contain specific data points that are required for the state library report. I would hedge against those being a concern at the moment. You're welcome to look at the legislation and see what they are, but they're not a part of the reporting we're asking for, because well, you can review them yourself.
Heather says, I appreciate the flexibility. We issue regular cards through informal partnerships, contacting all of the first grade teachers in every district. For our program, school IT departments have been willing to provide data securely using FTP or through SharePoint. Yes, that's what we have done at San Diego Public Library.
Yeah, love to hear that, Donald.
Yeah, we are pulling patron use data from our e-resource vendors and using barcode patron ID as a match point to run SQL reports in our ILS that give us a more robust picture of patron use. I expect we'll have to do this for student success cards as well, but I realize many libraries might not have these capabilities. So long as a library card is offered to a student by 3rd grade, there are no requirements for continued support or continuation of district collaboration for students 4th grade and above. Is that correct?
Yeah, Cambria, that would be correct. But again, I would caution with the fact that, you're designing this program maybe at the impetus of the state legislation, but ultimately you should design the longevity of the program to serve your community needs. And if a library card is valuable for 5th graders, for 7th graders, for 10th graders, I really encourage you to pursue it for them, because I think that we're all better when more students are able to access the public library.
A few more clarifying questions. Is there a requirement for a student success card to be different from a standard juvenile? Hold on. No, student from a standard juvenile library card in the ILS? And is there a requirement for the student success registrations to be tracked as such? Or is it acceptable for an opt-in informal partnership to simply invite registrations for library cards that meet the criteria of the legislation?
Okay. Let me
unpack there.
Yeah. It's a great question, Elizabeth. So there is no requirement that a student success card be different in the level of access it offers from a juvenile library card. Generally speaking, there's 3 models of card access that is allowable, or that is defined under the student success legislation. They have 4 in the legislation, but 2 of them are exactly the same. So there's only 3. And that is a full library card, access to everything in your building, a starter card, maybe access to print materials but not DVDs or something like that, and then finally the e-card that only allows access to electronic materials. So any of those 3 models would meet the requirements. In regards to tracking in your ILS, I would recommend that you do that so that you can keep track of the amount of effort and outcome that is achieved through your program, just as people do for many facets of their library services. But it is not required in the legislation. Eventually, the state library will come knocking on your door for numbers. Exactly what those data points that we are seeking to gather are still, in my opinion, a little bit in flux, but I would suspect highly that the number of student success cards you have issued is going to be one of them.
Okay. So mostly here we have our responses to continuing conversations on previous questions. And being that it's 12 o'clock, I'm gonna the time flew. I just wanted to Thomas Carter asked if we have a question later on that isn't in the FAQs, is there a listserv or Teams chat group where we can ask questions to our fellow student success librarian colleagues, aka the hive mind? That sounds like a great idea. Maybe we'll come up with something like that, right, Chris?
Yeah, I think a student success card listserv could be a reality in the future. Right now, the state library is having a little bit of an issue with some of its listservs, but that's not to rule out the possibility of that in general here.
And I just want to say that the Student Success Working Group, we still have a couple more big networking meetings for all libraries coming in the next few months. And we don't have an agenda for next month yet because we were kind of waiting to see what kind of questions were coming out of this meeting today and to ask us anything. So there'll be more opportunities for more to clarify some of these questions that have come up, and more time to ask questions as well. So this isn't the last one. This is just, we had some time here to designate to the impact report and then to ask some more questions. So thank you to everybody for these really great questions. This will help us. This will help inform us on how to for content for our future meetings. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. We really appreciate all the thoughts here, and especially the critical eye that you are bringing to the practice of this program here. It's really valuable to talk through, and we hope that we're being both candid and transparent in the way we're providing support and what the program asks for.
Okay. So I think that is a wrap. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Chris, for answering all of those questions. That was extremely helpful. I learned a lot. I hope everyone here feels a little bit more comfortable answering their impact report. And hopefully you'll join us on our next call.
Yeah, I have to say, we're doing an Ask Me Anything again. Shauna's got to take it next time.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chris. Have a great rest of your week, everyone.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.